Solomon.
Okay, let me get it.
Open session.
Stephanie? Ooh, I don't see her at all. She's not in the attendees.
What?
Stephanie?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, there she is.
No, Maria Elena.
Maria Elena.
Oh, she's having a problem now? Huh. It's weird. She was in earlier.
She says the host will, I think she thinks that we're in closed session, but I just let her know that we're in open session.
Yeah. Oh, that's what it is. She went to the other one. She was the first one here. She got here like 10 minutes ago.
Got it. I just let her know. So can you just be on the lookout for her?
Mm-hmm. Yep. I'll see her. Yep, there she is.
Is she here? Okay, perfect. All right, here she comes.
Yep. She just has to share her video.
I'm here. I'm here.
Hello.
Finally, thank you. Yeah, I thought you were gone to because I was there and there was nobody. I thought you were gone to close session. I was, oh no.
Yeah, you were very early.
All right. Oh, good for once. Thank you.
All righty, so let's get started. I am going to open the Ravenswood City School District Board of Trustees special meeting of July 7th, 2020 at 5:32 p.m. Roll call, please.
President Polito,
Present.
Vice President Wilson, you're on mute.
Here.
Trustee Fitch,
Here.
Trustee Guyona,
Here.
Trustee Shabot-Mahin.
Here.
A quorum is present. We will now move to the approval of the agenda. I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda if there are no changes.
No. I make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
All right. Roll call, please.
President Polito,
Aye.
Vice President Wilson,
Yes.
Trustee Fitch,
Aye.
Trustee Guyona,
Aye.
Trustee Shabot-Mahin.
Motion carries 5-0. So we will move to the consent agenda, and nothing was pulled. So I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
President Polito,
Aye.
Vice President Wilson,
Yeah, aye.
Trustee Fitch,
Aye.
Trustee Guyona,
Aye.
Trustee Shabot-Mahin.
Aye.
Great. Motion carries 5-0, which takes us to item 4, which is a superintendent's update and a brief update to the reopening of school task force.
Yes, there's 2 items actually under the superintendent report.
Oh,
Trustee
William.
Polito. Yeah, so I'm just reporting that there's been no formal complaint with the Williams uniform complaint.
Great news. So that will take us to the update on the reopening of school.
And I will go through this quite quickly. I just want to make sure that you receive the updates here. I'm going to share my screen. My mouse will cooperate. Okay. So I would like to give an update quickly on our reopening school plan. And so we will go over just an update on our priorities around community focus, student learning and development, health and safety. And then if there are any discussions, we can have a conversation. Otherwise, I'll just share some next steps. Our first priority is around community focus. And we've been holding several parent focus groups along with town hall meetings. Our first one was last night. Our first town hall meeting was by school site at Los Robles. Tonight, actually, during this board meeting, the Bellhaven Willow site is being held. And then on Thursday, we are going to have a town hall meeting for Castaño Brentwood, and on Friday for the Ravenswood Middle School. It's an opportunity to share information about the reopening of schools around COVID-19, ensuring that we open them safely, and then to hear important concerns and issues parents might have about health, safety, and learning. This is the agenda. Yes.
How many people attended?
Last night, there were 44 staff members and families that attended. And when I left the town hall meeting this evening, there were about 36 parents and staff that attended. And then our parent focus groups had about 15 families district-wide, 2 Spanish-speaking meetings on Monday morning and evening. And then on Wednesday morning, Wednesday evening last week, it was English-speaking. focus. Our town hall meetings are bilingual by site. So our agenda for our parent focus groups and our town hall meetings cover the pillars of the San Mateo County's 4 pillars around opening schools, the purpose and priorities of the district task force, and then the parents and staff have opportunities to break off into small group instruction where there's note-taking around these topics listed here, around student learning and development and health and safety, specifically tackling physical distancing, face masks, and what their response is to the instructional model that we're presenting, where we are leaning towards a specific model based on feedback from families in a survey that families have submitted, and we'll share a little bit of results of those. And then also just how are their students doing? How do they do in the spring? And what type of social emotional supports are needed? Our small group instruction actually lends itself to about 15 to 20 minutes. So there is a substantial amount of time. They're usually about 6 to 7 people in each group. So voices from all parties are heard, and we've been splitting them up by staff and by families. So liked groups. And here, then we broke off and we shared some information that came through recently around AB 77, and that's going to be approved by this Senate Bill 98. And at the bottom there, you'll see in English that schools are going to be required to do daily live instruction across all content, no matter if they're at home learning or if they're on campus. And we are still going to need to provide 180 days of instructional days. But the instructional minutes have been waived. The traditional instructional minutes have been waived. So it's about 180 minutes for kindergarten. These are off the top of my head. And 230 minutes for 3rd grade, 230 minutes for 1st through 2nd grade, 240 minutes 3rd through 8th grade each day. We have to take attendance each and every day, including taking attendance for students at home learning. And if there is data that shows that students are missing about 60% of instruction in a given week, then we must create a plan to re-engage those students. And we must have a regular communication plan to ensure that we're communicating with parents regularly about their progress. Okay. We shared with families and staff that we've been exploring several options since the beginning. AM PM sessions with half students on campus in the morning and half in the afternoon, alternating weeks option, and then alternating days in each week. So 2 days on campus, 3 days at home learning. And we've been exploring to see if we have a low enough enrollment for TKK to consider 4 days on campus for our younger primary children here in TKK. We've allowed families to do another survey, and we've gotten their response. There's about 255 responses here. Families have had an opportunity to respond to each type of model. And you can see here that the 2 days on campus, 3 days at home learning is slightly favorable. Now, mind you, these are the same group of parents completing the survey for all 3 options. So they got to weigh in on all 3. There, just really trying to figure out where my mouse is. We are leaning towards the 2-day on campus, 3-day at home learning. And this is what a schedule could look like. We agreed that an at-home learning model, 2 days on and at home and 3 days at home learning, we would keep Monday an at-home learning day because those are the days typically that we have about 6 holidays that fall on that day. We then broke the groups or the participants into small groups, and we asked these questions here at the bottom in English and also in Spanish. And you can see some of the responses. These are just samples of the responses from families. And I try to get various responses. They did vary. So a question is, what are your thoughts about model we are leaning toward? These are good options, but are hard for working parents. An option that the kids go a half day complicates them a lot. They have 2 kids, but whatever decision is made, we have to work towards it. Need transportation? Yes. And I share this deck with you for you to review later as well. We also asked questions around social emotional wellness of their children and also inform them of supports that we're going to be able to put in place. And we are going to be able to provide counseling at each site and continue with those supports. We are going to make sure that we're going to incorporate social emotional learning and our teachers to be able to do that on a regular basis. We're going to provide a series of parent workshops. We've been working closely with Child Mind Institute and Children's Health Council. Our music teachers, even though it's July and they're supposed to be on vacation, have already come together a couple of times, and I met with them on Monday morning. They're going to center their lessons around social emotional learning. And then our teachers too will get trained to be able to provide support for their children and themselves. With the 2 days on campus, 2-3 days at home learning, we are going to utilize our specials teachers to support with that direct contact while students are at home learning. So their classroom teachers, the core content teachers, will be in person with their students. And then while the students are at home learning, the certificated specials teachers will engage with students, because the classroom teachers are going to have another 2 days with children in front of them. And that will address how we also keep students engaged and take attendance each day, whether at home or on campus. So we asked more questions too, and you can see the various responses from families. My daughter is frustrated to be at home, to be closed at home. The teacher says she was really emotional to see her friends, and when she went back to school for summer school, that is more social now, that she wants to talk more. It is good that kids go to school and are not closed. Social interactions are important outside of the homes. So we're listening and hearing all the responses from our families. And then around the priority of health and safety, we wanted to share with families what we're putting in place, especially around masks. And the district will provide 2 masks, the gator neck masks and also the masks that are traditionally what we use. And students will be able to bring their own masks as well. Parents were saying that they found material that's more comfortable for the children to breathe through. We shared the difference between the clear shields and the actual face cloth masks that cover the entire face, and how if you just have the typical clear shield, this still allows for droplets to leave. And so they're going to also have to wear a mask if their families want their children to wear the face shields. And if staff wear the face shields, they're also still going to have to wear a mask, a face covering. And the duration will vary, but we are trying to encourage students to wear it majority of the time. The county's framework suggests kindergartners wear it 25% of the time, and then we improve. First graders wear it 50% of the time, and then we want them to improve and increase that. Second grade, 75% of the time, and 3rd through 8th grade, 90% of the time. Okay. And I just wanted to share here just some responses of the survey around the at-home learning, and that 58% of our families choose social distance on campus learning over at-home learning. But our Spanish-speaking families, after this last survey, 63% prefer on campus. So there is a slight difference. And here's a graph here that shows that it's kind of split, where we have a lot of families that would prefer at-home learning over a hybrid model. You'll be able to also look at this more closely, but this shows in August what their preferences would be, broken down by our English-speaking families and our Spanish-speaking families. Again, this is similar data I just showed. And then we asked families around the health and safety some questions, and we did this as a whole group. So are they going to have recess? We're going to be able to monitor them to go outside. Are they going to be able to go on the structures? Not necessarily, not during the first phase of when we open up school. Physical education, we're going to be able to do PE, but they have to maintain 6 feet, the social distancing, where they don't have to wear a mask if they keep that social distance. And then we also address the percentage of time that we would like students to start wearing the mask, and then obviously increasing that so it's majority of the time. There are other questions as well that came up, and we did some polls around transportation and childcare, and we did those polls within the breakout sessions. And you can see that there's still going to be need for transportation and childcare, so we're going to have to get creative with our partners to be able to help us support maybe the Boys and Girls Club. They've been very supportive in the process and have been attending all the task force meetings and subcommittee meetings, as well as town hall meetings. I know that when we met with our partners, Epicenter, Nadine mentioned how they could provide support and maybe locations to allow for supervision and at-home learning to take place maybe in another location. There was also a question of what happens if someone gets sick, and there's already protocols in place in the framework. Number one thing I want to emphasize is that we maintain privacy for anybody, for anybody's health or medical information. So we're not going to be sharing who got sick, but we are going to be able to notify through a formal exposure notice. We'll make sure that that individual self-isolates, confirm that they're under medical care. We're going to make sure that we sanitize and disinfect, and communicate with the school community that there may have been there's a confirmed case, and we'll indicate and be able to do the tracking to notify those individuals to determine next steps. And we'll definitely inform the County Office of Ed, and who will then inform the County Health Officer. And then just our next steps here is that we just want to make sure we're as transparent as possible. We're going to take in all the information. We've posted it on our website, Reopen Schools Update. We're going to continue having our town hall meetings for the rest of the week. We would like to be able to have a presentation and a plan for the board to review and to approve next Thursday during a special board meeting, if that still works for the members of the board. And then submit the plan to our County Office of Ed by the 24th, and then really work and do our due diligence for the logistical pieces, so we're ready by August 26th. Okay.
Thank you, Superintendent Sidaria, for that report and that update, and for keeping us apprised of the progress that the task force has made. Before we move on from this item, I'd love to give the board an opportunity to ask any questions or provide any feedback from this update. Does anyone have anything to share?
May I?
Yes.
To share? I have maybe clarification about the PE time. When the students go to PE, you mentioned that they may not wear masks if they keep the social distance. So I'm just worried that I believe you do the PE. I don't know how you're gonna do it this year with the special education students too, right? Is it gonna be the same? Are they gonna be included with the PE?
Special physical education, PE minutes have been waived, so it's not mandatory this coming year. So if we do any form of physical education, that will be the classroom teacher or the special education teacher's prerogative. And so we're also looking at how to assign the support of our physical education teachers. But yes, if we offer it to our general education teachers, students, we're going to need to offer it to our students with special and unique needs. And okay, if they are amongst the smaller group, we're going to have to be aware of whether or not the students are going to be able to keep the 6 feet. If not, then they need to wear their masks.
Yeah, because I'm just worried that by the time we find out if they can do it or not, it's gonna be, somebody infected. It's not that everybody's infected, but there could be one infected and we're thinking of, he might or he might not be able to keep it. And, sometimes just because, especially on students with autism, they cannot handle anything on their skin. So they're gonna be taking it off. But if they don't have it at all, it's gonna be even worse, because if they're taking it off, somebody could help them and say, put it right back on, help them out. But if they don't have it at all, I also know that sometimes, at least with the group of students that I work, they get too close. They tend to get too close, and you have to teach them continuously, to keep their distance. This was even before the coronavirus thing. So now I imagine that this is gonna become a big issue, because we have to make sure that they always keeping the distance. So just making sure that, I think there should be a rule, they keep them all the time. And if for some reason, for somebody doesn't work, making sure that somebody is with that student, keeping them away all the time, because there's gonna be those kids who can not just handle it, feeling it, the sensory issues that come out with them.
We will definitely be
Yes,
conscientious of that.
thank you. That's it.
So I do have a question through the chair.
Yes.
So Superintendent Sadaria, you said that if the family tests positive, how are we informed of that?
They're to notify us.
So it's all voluntary.
Mhm.
Recording.
Yes. Now, if someone has symptoms of fever and what have you, then we are to have a designated space and try to get them home as soon as possible. And then we would ask them to please contact the medical physician to determine if they're able to come back.
To the chair, I have a question.
Yes.
Are we gonna have testing available on campus for staff?
We're working with the county to determine if our itinerant staff, those who work with several different cohorts because of the services that they provide students, to be able to get us tested. But we haven't looked at having that made available for families and students and staff on a regular basis, but more intermittently for the itinerant staff who, like from our special ed department, who provide services for several students.
I have another question. Other schools are going to be checking temperatures as the students come in. Are we gonna be doing that? Even to the staff, not just the students. Everyone, before they go in, they go check, have it
Yes.
checked. Even though they might still be contagious if they have it and they don't have the symptoms, but just a little thing to prevent it.
Staff and students will have temperature checks, and also students who enter the bus.
Got it.
Trustee Chabot-Mahin, I believe, wanted to ask a question or
Yes.
say a comment.
Thank you, Trustee Polito. I wanted to ask if parents choose to keep their student at home the entire time. I know we're waiting on a decision from the county to see if that would still count towards ADA. Will they have the option to have an online learning available 5 days a week if they choose to stay home?
Right now, that is not being excluded and it's not being identified as an option, but it's also not being something that we can't provide.
Right.
So there's going to be an opportunity for parents to determine if they would like an at-home learning model or the hybrid model. And if they choose, they would need to choose for the entire trimester, which is until November 20th. It's not possible for staff to be as responsive as we would like when families determine, oh, no, actually, I need them to come to school now, because staffing and everything is based on what we are informed of about parents' needs.
Thank you.
So I have a question or two. So we talked about counseling services being provided, and will that be in person?
Yes, so we'll continue with virtual and then also in person, but it will have to be very strategic and our most vulnerable students. So there has to be a cohort of students so that we can do the contact tracing.
Okay, because I know some of our students who need these types of services, virtual may not work for them. So
Yeah.
we can find ways to meet those needs. That would be great. And then you talked about the masks not being enough because droplets.
The clear masks, you know,
Clear
those ones.
Yeah, the ones on the head. I think droplets can escape either way, which is why they like 6 feet of distancing with either mask over the mouth or the clear one. So I just want to note that. But on the other hand, I know that some elementaries are using clear plastic dividers so the kids don't have to be in mask all day. And I don't know if you mentioned that, but I just heard the mask portion.
No, I did not mention it, but the task force, or I'm sorry, subcommittee, instructional subcommittee has considered the clear, but that would only be, that wouldn't be sufficient. Let's just say that.
So the dividers, I've seen actual like desk dividers. It's not a mask they wear, like it's clear and it divides. There's no way that droplets can get to the other side.
Yeah.
Understood, but we are also encouraged that even though we have the shields, that the masks are still more protective. And if the teacher were to come closer within 6 feet, 3 feet, then they would still need to wear a mask. If the students go on the floor, they would need to wear a mask. Again,
I think because when I think about kids interacting with each other and having to be in masks throughout the entire day, I mean, as an adult, it gets overwhelming to have that mask on all day, and we do it because we know we have to. But I feel like if there's alternative for students to at least not have to have the mask the entire instruction time, but still be equally as safeguarded from any kind of COVID-19 transmission, I would love to see that be explored. And I think that we still should have an expectation of having kids come on campus with masks, right? When they're going to their classrooms, when they're going to the restrooms. If, you know, they need help from a teacher, okay, but make sure you have your mask on, you know, if they need to get up. But if they're having a group or, you know, a neighbor discussion and they have these dividers that literally isolate them from any exchange of fluids, but they don't have to have that restrictive mask, I would love to see us implement that as much as possible. And that's just my wishes for, I think it's just more conducive to learning and engaging and interacting.
We will definitely look into the threefold masks. I'm sorry, the threefold dividers.
Yeah. We need.
And then lastly, the transportation. So I saw 41% are still wanting transportation, but given that we have to be 6 feet apart, that means the amount of kids we're able to transport at one time significantly decreases.
It does.
So does that mean that, are we going to have criteria that says you have to meet this criteria to be able to qualify for transportation? Otherwise, if like, for example, you live down the block, we're asking you to walk over or we're asking you to drop off, what? Or is that still kind of in conversation? You haven't, like, because the task force is still meeting, it still hasn't been developed fully yet.
So those questions have been raised, but we have not put a survey out to parents yet. We just have done the polls within the parent focus groups and the town hall meetings and asked if transportation is necessary for you to get your child to and from school. But we have not put the distance, like the from school, to determine who would qualify for a bus and the criteria, because we are thinking about if you're less than half a mile or maybe even 3/4 of a mile, you know, depending on how many students are relying on the bus, like our families in the West Park apartments who go to Bellhaven, they would need a bus. But those living within the Bellhaven area potentially could walk.
Right.
Because we can't increase our expenses either. We can't hire any more bus drivers. So we have to work within our resources. But yes, we want to send out a survey to identify who would meet criteria.
To share?
Yes.
I have an idea that you probably thought about it already. Having different starting times so you can give time to bus drivers to drop students at one place and then go for the one that starts a little later. Even if it's just half an hour, it makes a big difference. Because if you fill up that bus with the same amount of kids, you know, those long buses with the same amount of kids that you usually do, that's gonna be a problem because it's no social distancing at all. And the students are gonna be very close together and they're mischieving, you know, even if they wanna be safe, they're not mature yet. They're gonna be taking the mask off sometimes. So I think if we would have, I know you cannot hire drivers, but if we would have different starting times, like not everybody starting middle school, you know, other school at the same time, it's impossible. But that's what other schools do. They start at different time. One starts at 8, the other one 8:15 or 8:30. So that way they have a chance to go, drop the kids, come back and get more and not get all of them at once. Just an idea.
Right. We are looking at staggered times for the elementary and the middle school.
Thank you. Yes,
Mhm.
that would be good.
Okay, anyone else have any more questions or comments? All right, once again, thank you for this
your feedback,
report.
yes.
And we look forward to receiving the final report and recommendation next week, I believe. So that will allow us to move on to item 5, which is in closed session. So the board will move into closed session and resume back to open session at approximately 7:30 p.m. So we will move into closed session at 6:02 p.m. I will see you all over there.
Thank you. They clicked the wrong one.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. I can see you, but I don't know if anyone else is on.
They are. I think you accidentally clicked on the different link.
I did?
It put you as an attendee.
Okay. No, no.
We're
worries.
waiting for Marilena.
Okay.
I don't see her in either one, so. But she may not come back.
All right. So let me open up the agenda again. So if everyone can hear me, we are returning to open session at 7:17 p.m. And a report was given for item 5A, and a discussion was held and direction was given. And that is all there is to report on closed session. So now we will adjourn this meeting at 7:18 p.m. Thank you for attending.
Thank you.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
I just got back. How am I saying bye now? No, just
So quickly.
bye. Have a good night.
You too.
Bye.